Okay, guys, I think we can begin now. For inclusion, okay, guys. Yeah, I think we are all complete. Fantastic. Okay, guys. So just a quick recap of what we're going to do today. Yeah. So today we are going to do our CV preparations and interview preparations. Yeah. Now we'll start off with the CV part. You are looking at a sample CV. Okay. You're looking at a sample CV. So I want to discuss this with you before I upload that into the LMS, and then you can utilize this or leverage this to create your own CV. Yeah. So guys, the CV is all about defining a very good header, right? So the header is the info that you have on the first half page of your CV. Yeah. This is important because it tells the latest and the greatest from you, on you. Yeah. Now, considering what are we packaging for our future, honestly. So what we are packaging, guys, is we come from a certain domain, okay, something that you can mention here. And on top of the domain, now we have a reasonable amount of knowledge, yeah, and the hands-on practice. This is what you're going to be ready with, let's say a month from now, right? So after successful completion of your project, after successful completion and and the ratings that I'll give for your BRD, Marticus is going to offer you the certification certification certificate or something, right? And based on that, you can be confident that now, based on a certain domain knowledge, I can work as a business analyst in that specific domain. Okay, and let you not be deterred. Let you not be deterred from people who may tell you that, oh, you know what, business analyst needs to have a long experience, you are too fresh into the market, etc., etc. So guys, all the candidates in previous batches who did not get disturbed with these kind of off and on kind of feedback from markets, today most of them are actually sitting as a business analyst in the same domain which they have been working in the last couple of years. So somebody who was on the shop floor on the production unit of a pharmaceutical company, today he is a business analyst in the pharma field. Somebody who was a production engineer, or not even an engineer actually, a couple of them were actually from the manufacturing setup, right? So today they are business analysts in the production units, right? So what do they do? For example, what would a factory guy do, for example, after learning business analysis? So again, from a production unit perspective, he had a full view and exposure of the various processes on the shop floors. Yeah. Now, whether it is any kind of manufacturing, that doesn't matter. For manufacturing processes, for quality control, for inspections, etc., that was those candidates' domain. Today, they are sitting between these, one layer, which is the business guys on the production floor, and second, the IT teams, which are, part of their companies. So today, they, understand the shop floor perspective for the need of developing more of new generation applications, right? And obviously the shop floor uses two kinds of applications. One are the standard vanilla ones, which they buy off the shelf, which are coming from, let's say, big brands like Microsoft or SAP or whatever. But all the custom developed applications are something which these guys are now helping the IT teams and helping to develop the same after giving them a very, very detailed process or business perspective behind it. And that's true for any domain, guys. Whether people who were in telecom earlier as network engineers, people who were in finance earlier as back-end finance operators, simple finance analysts, people who were from retail banking. Yeah. So today they are all, performing the roles and functions of a business analyst. Yeah. In the finance sector. Now, if you see what exactly happened, I really think it was just a small twist of the things. You earlier had the process knowledge, process familiarity, and etc. Today also the same thing is being utilized, except that now you have to sit with the same people where you came from. For example, the retail bankers, people who became business analysts who were retail bankers, today are performing business analyst role again, typically in banks only. But it is just now that earlier they were attending to the customer as a front face. Today they interact with those people on the floor of the bank who interact with customer. They give their experiences of dealing with the customer. They give their pain points. They give their wish list in form of small story pointers, which helps our guys, our BAs, to assess and analyze that what kind of apps must be developed now, on the CRM side to retain the customers' loyalties, etc. So then banks slowly, what happens is that those applications are developed, then they are thoroughly, extensively tested. Today you see the banks are getting so mobile. Today account opening is done within 10 minutes. They have already built the interface with our unique ID of Aadhaar. So today the banker comes, to you. They just take your fingerprints, they take your photographs, they upload that immediately, which is interfaced with the Aadhaar IDs, right? It is authenticated, documented, checked up, and your account is opened. They give you a checkbook immediately. They give you your debit card immediately, which they get activated within the next 3 hours, right? So in one day, the whole banking process is already done. Now, obviously, it couldn't have been possible unless those very specific apps could have been developed, which are able to help a banker on the spot, to create all these transactions, to do all these processes very quickly, while on the net, it interfaces with the rest of the other larger IT background. Yeah. So guys, if you look at the CV, it very clearly says that what is the value add you are bringing in as a business analyst. Now, I understand, so does the market, that you have never been BS before, right? So what is that is going to turn you into a business analyst in these, in the last 2 months and the subsequent 1 month? Yeah, what is that special thing in that 3 months which is going to help you, turn your career into business analyst if you want to, and how the market will help it, understand the same as well and offer you the right opportunity. So guys, the whole packaging story is dependent on the domain you come from, and now that the business analysis, that entire platform, yeah, from a process perspective, methodologies, techniques, case studies, and all that thing that you have learned how to create, which you will now create, right? You will create the BRD. After that, you fully finalize that with me. I think your confidence is going to be, of course, way more than where you are standing as of today. This is the whole packaging which will help you to step forward into the career of business analyst. All right. Any query anybody has on this? Any query, guys? Anybody has? All right. All we are good. Then we can keep going ahead. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Rishabh. So I hope we are recording the session. Yeah, we are recording. Yeah, okay, cool. That's cool. Thanks, Odit. Thank you. Okay, so guys, coming back to the CV. Now see how softly it is articulating what you can do to get a soft footprint into the business analyst field. Ability to define, gather, and document requirements by understanding the client needs. Yeah. You can lead planning meetings, you can hold group discussion between different stakeholders to define requirements and implement business processes as per specifications. Yeah. So one concise sentence plans to pick up a lot of meat in itself. So guys, you know what happens? So when tomorrow, let's say we find Udit, you create your CV based on this sample CV, and let's say sends it to me, and then I help to finalize it. Probably I'll help to customize that a little bit more according to the domain Udit comes from. Yeah. Once the CV is finalized, Udit is likely going to let's say upload on certain portals, for example, or let's say we upload it on the IT companies portals, right? So let's say Wipro, TCS, etc. When we upload this thing, what happens is, and also of course that you update your LinkedIn profile with the same stuff, right? What happens is that the HR teams for various product companies, IT companies, anybody who needs business analysts, they use certain keywords to search the profiles on the LinkedIn, right? Then guys, these typical keywords, define requirements, implement business processes, right? Analyze requirements, etc. All these kind of various things. They help to catch your CV, and that's how your CV is gets into the filter where they are able to look into it and analyze that what has been your current experience till now, and whether this profile can be a good fit into, let's say, a junior level BA position that they have in their organizations. So again, guys, if you are 2 years workex, you are likely going to get only 2 years. You're going to go as a junior BA. If you have 4 to 5 years, it's going to be a mid-sized BA. Yeah. And if you have about 8 years plus, then you can definitely go, maybe not immediately as a senior BA, but yes, they will keep you, let's say, some kind of a probation for a couple of months. They train you. They expect to see the value which you will bring from your domain knowledge, etc. And then they, confirm you as a senior BA. So it depends, guys. It's frankly, this is just a launching platform. How quickly you learn the tricks of the trade while being in a business analyst environment. How do you display your confidence and ability to bind all the stakeholders into a common thread? How do you lead discussions? Yeah. How do you perform as a very good interface between business and IT? Yeah. How you are able to kind of eventually design the BRDs with very, very proper analysis on all the business parameters which are going to play a role in this application developments, right? So there are quite a few things which organization looks at while they judge you in the way in form of your confidence, and in terms of your ability to frankly to handhold senior stakeholders, right? That is the basic aspect with which you go ahead and prove your mark. Yeah. Okay, so guys, you're gonna use this entire forehead and see what really applies to you in a way. So frankly, none of you probably is a business analyst, right? But the fact is that ability to liaison between business and technical teams to arrive at a mutual understanding on process, applications, etc., etc., While that you do a good planning, great communication, decision making, problem solving abilities, etc. So these are those generic pointers about a good business analyst which anybody of you can use. So please don't hesitate to use these, because I would like to see it there. But yes, when each one of you sends me your CV on the email, yeah, I just want you in the email body to mention the details of the domain that you come from, so that I'm able to customize your CV accordingly. Okay, this is my okay, I see a couple of queries, so let me. So Pankaj, I think you must have got the answers by now. See, that's what I said. That's why I say that, you typically step into the market as a junior BA, because certification is one thing. And please don't say only certification. Say on the basis of my domain experience plus my business analyst certification course, that itself is a kind of a reasonable combination, Pankaj. Yeah. So, see, I don't want you to think that way, that only on the basis of certification am I BA. Please say that on the basis of my prior workx into a certain domain. And obviously, go guys, refresh your processes that you have attended to, any kind of customer services, whatever you have done in your current experiences, right? It's important because eventually you will have to relate that to your business analysis, or what you have learned as a methodology, and try to give certain instances or examples in the last 2 years where you were not a BA, but still you were doing something like what I just said about, let's say, managing stakeholders on certain things, maybe not on requirements, maybe on other things. But even if you have any experience to manage stakeholders, which a lot of us have, right, it just stands as a strong qualifying ground for your pitch as a business analyst. So we can, guys, create only a pitch, okay, and we have to be impressive enough for the market to like it. That's the story about it. Okay, Himangi has asked something, some questions. So she's saying that, okay, suppose we are not from any domain experience, okay, then what is the story? So Himangi, if you are not from any domain, which I believe that if you're trying to saying that you are probably fresh out of college and you have just learned this up, right? If this is the story, then just give me a pointer. You know what? For example, let's take your example. So what is that you have done? Are you out of college fresh, or you have done some kind of a small work X? Just give me a note in the chat window and I can explain that how your kind of packaging can happen. Yes. So it's a banking situation. So Ivangi, first and foremost, okay. So guys, first and foremost, if any of us had some kind of a break or something, okay, I'm not just talking generally for everybody. If we had a small break of a couple of months or probably a year or something, for any valid reason, first and foremost, it doesn't come in as an obstacle. Okay, I remember in quite a few batches, I had my girl candidates, right, who had maybe done some kind of a maternity break or any other break, even the guys who had taken a break for some study leaves, etc. So what matters is, Himangi, that which domain you come from, which is banking. Okay, all what matters is how good you have been as a banker, what role you have performed in the bank, on the floor, in the front end, in the back end. Okay, what is how coolly you can marry your on the floor kind of a banking knowledge and customer service knowledge, etc., for all the banking processes that you have done with the business analyst knowledge that you have gained now. So guys, break is not a threat at all. Okay. Now, for example, somebody amongst you, let's say some of you may have some kind of BPO, KPO experiences. Okay. So guys, what do we do in a BPO? Well, if you're on the data side, Probably we do invoice verification, invoice posting, and some kind of a compliance things, maybe some KYCs, etc. So all I'm trying to say, guys, even that itself is also obviously part of the domain. Now, whether you are doing invoice posting, KYCs, banking, etc., again, that is counted as a finance kind of or closely related to a banking experience. See, it depends. A BPO, for example, or a KPO, is, let's say, either it is, let's say, for a bank, then in that case, you are from the banking domain. See, it doesn't matter. Maybe Himangi was a front office banker. Maybe somebody among you was in the back end of the banking processes. Either way, let's say in finance, somebody is doing a front office trading, somebody is doing a back end, somebody is a banking, let's say operational analyst in the back end of a bank. Yeah. So either way, front end or back end doesn't matter. What matters is that being in the front end or back end, either way, what is the process specific, specificity that you have come to understand. So I'll be very clear, guys. Prepare 2-3 processes which you have attended end to end, right? For example, for the KPO guys or BPO guys, invoice posting, for example, where does it start? How does it originate? How does it come to you? What process do you follow on it in order to authenticate or whatever that you have to do it in? And how do you post it out? See, eventually you have to articulate that. Do you have a process flow familiarity? Well, in case the answer is yes, you can give 2-3 actual instances on your day-to-day work. Because see, what does an interview need? An interview is just checking out that are you comfortable in terms of, tomorrow when he front ends you with the stakeholders, they're going to be probably again talking to you about the process flow, their own process flow. Now, whether that is from any industry, it will be easier for you to understand if you're from the same industry, right? That's where, guys, every domain matters, and every work that you do today is a domain. It belongs to a certain domain. Yes, of course, Udit. So eventually, what are we going to do? We are going to package your CVs, okay, interrelate your domain experiences, create, a hands-on BA out of you. Now, trust me, once the BRD iteration between you and me are going to be done, you would have already have quite a bit of experience in writing every table of content of your BRD. That just gives you a very different perspective. Because see, till now you've been hearing, listening, asking queries, understanding, but now you're going to be actually creating a big deliverable, right? So after a successful completion of the same, it's quite a turnaround story. And then on top of it, you already have your interview preps ready. You already have your CV refreshed and built like a customized CV of a BA. Then you put it up, at the right sites. Then you put it up across the right portals. Then you put it up across the right, clients, which are typically working in the same domain as yours. So all banking guys here today will definitely upload, when you're ready. When you're ready, right? You will definitely upload your CVs across all the right portals. Where thanks to the keywords that you have in your CVs, they are definitely going to get at least first-time shortlistings. Yeah, and then I will leave it up to you that how do you want to conduct yourself in the interview. Okay, one question, guys, is I was involved in testing for my domain applications. So guys, typically the testers amongst you always turn out to be very good BAs. Okay, that I've seen in since last 10 years, since I've been in the IT perspective. What happens is that when you guys prepare, let's say, test strategy, right, or you prepare test plans or test cases, etc., that time, the fundamental ability to articulate the process flow is very clear. See, test cases are what? It's basically just a flow of transaction from, let's say it has 10 transactions running from end to end. But transactional execution is just another way of executing your business process, right? So let's say in order to have kind of a process scenario, Right? You create orders, we create deliveries, we create goods issues, we create invoicings, we attend to the customers. All that is what? It's part of a giant process called order to cash, where you are gathering the order from the client, and then you're dispatching, and then you're collecting the need financials from the client, and that's why you say, okay, order to cash. Yeah. Typically, testers have a very good ability to create test cases, test plans, etc. And thanks to that ability, they are generally quite good in terms of their business process articulation. See, guys, it's very simple. I know where you are right now. You are saying that we have been on, most of us have been on pretty much on the transactional side, right? Guys, remember, you just have to flip the story around. From a very transactional perspective, now you have to become very business process. You have to gather the business process perspective. See, you were executing transactions, let's say, for example, Sumit, right? So you were executing the transactions for conducting the business process testings, right? What were you testing? You were testing all the new enhancements which have been done to the business process. Now, let's understand it this way. If I would like to call all the transaction as windows of a business process, this means, guys, you were opening and closing every window when you are creating and executing the testing. If you know so well the windows, obviously you know the dimension of the room as well. So if your windows are the transactions which conduct a business process, then the room itself is the business process. So tell me something, how long will it take for you to just bring certain details, okay, on let's say 1, 2, or 3 different processes, which you can use as a reference point or examples, to answer most of your interview questions. That's exactly what most of the candidates like you do. Yeah. So you just have to prepare your stuff well. Yeah, and then you'll be good. Okay. One query again. This query is, we do not have exposure to technical operations like, for example, applications like Jira. How would the industry consider that as a BA? So guys, Sumit has asked a very valid query. For example, Jira is a tool, yeah, which we use in agile development. Okay, so Jira is used typically for project management and related functions. Now, again, Sumit and others, Jira kind of a tools are basically there for IT teams to implement. Who does the actual agile? You are only in agile cycle as a business analyst, right? So you have a project manager, yes. You have function analysts, yes. They are the ones who are using Jira for various, various tasks and activities which they have to conduct in the agile part, right? So guys, again, your title is business analyst, not technical analyst. So that's why most of the tools or applications which are more on the SDLC side, you don't have to worry about it. But I told you right in the beginning of the course, please have a good overview on various apps like ERP applications, big data applications, analytics applications, only because they may be the likely solutions for your requirements. In any case, you will have to discuss that in thorough detail with the IT teams to come up to a technical kind of a solution which you want to offer to the client. But prior to technical solution, you have to give a high-level business solution, which tells them that, okay, what kind of apps are likely to be developed, which will be a good fit for them to carry on their operations better. Since you are restricted to that, I don't think that you need to have a good or a very detailed exposure to various technical applications. Yeah, overview is enough, guys. Overview is more than sufficient because, see, let's say tomorrow you are acting as a business analyst for a business intelligence related requirements. That time, what is BI, how BI is done, what are the different analytics techniques, how data is analyzed, okay, how do we build information cubes. Now, all that is successfully done through actual BI applications. If you have an overview, at least it gives you enough of a talking points in front of your stakeholders. Okay. Yeah, Udit, I will devote some time after today's break on agile methodology. I've got 2 very good slides. I will use the same to articulate I'll refresh all of your understandings, you guys, on agile. So we'll do that after the first break. Okay, guys, this is what I wanted to bring from a CV perspective. Now, number one, first component is your this header. Use this please to build up stuff. Second is your domain experience. So please put down here what domain you come from, what are the typical processes that you have handled in your respective domain. Third is going to be your education. In education, the thing you put up is business analysis certified professional, right? And what are the top few processes that you have learned quite well? Okay, so this is what these three components are what you're going to leverage from here, and the rest your CV is what it is in terms of various, let's say various whatever projects you have done, where you have worked before, and what you have done in form of responsibilities, etc., etc. Okay. All right, guys. So this is the CV part. I will make sure that this is also uploaded in LMS, and if I'm not wrong, it's already there. Okay, and then you can start designing your CV. I've already given you my this thing. What? Sorry, ID, email ID. So whenever you are ready, you can start posting me. We will be pretty much in touch in the next about 4 to 6 weeks, so that we complete CV, BRD, any kind of your queries, etc. Okay, then you are ready as a business analyst to be up to apply into the market. And after that, anyways, my email ID is fully open for you to ask me any kind of query for going into the market, for any typical queries, in case of any responses that you may not be getting, what are the typical roadblocks you are facing, etc., etc. Right? So that counseling will continue. Okay, great. So we can close this now and we can go into our interview preparations. Yeah, Sushant, I'll do that. I'll do that. All right. So this is my email ID, guys. And what you're looking at right now, guys, is your typical interview questions, which come and confront you in the interview. Yeah. Okay. All right. So welcome to the interview preparation, guys. So what we discussed in the last 40 minutes, guys, is a typical answer to this prime question which confronts all of you. Okay. What does it say? It says that you are coming from a typical domain experience. Yeah. So you come from a certain domain, all right? What prompted you to become a business analyst and why? Okay, so first question is on your checking the authentications of your intentions, whether they are, mixed with a certain I mean, much more than a noble intentions, of course, right? So what is the background for your thinking of to become a business analyst, how you have enabled yourself to business analyst, etc. And now, guys, the important part is enablement. Okay, so listen, just a certification is not the only enablement. You have to bring forward that what is the experience from your domain perspective. Okay, and also for some of you guys who have been part and parcel of certain any kind of an initiative, any kind of a project where you worked jointly with IT teams to develop some kind of a new application or tool or anything, you have to bring out all those details. So experience or initiative that you have done to either change a business process or replace a business process or develop any kind or give small contribution to development in terms of development of any kind of an application to help a business process run better, more optimum. All such small snippets are going to be very useful now. I'll tell you why. While that you will explain your, your business analyst knowledge part, any kind of things in between saying, just as an example, a few months back, I was engaged with certain stakeholders because we jointly wanted to brainstorm that what is the process flow as of today, and if there is any kind of a bottleneck which we can identify and eradicate. Yeah. So all those kind of things is something which you want to bring forward. So what happens is with this small snippet saying, hey, for example, in one of the projects, I had a small opportunity to interact with stakeholders. It may not be typically on your business requirement collection point. It may be just to interact, just to discuss how we can make the business process better. So guys, business process is a lifeline. That is what you have to clearly bring forward with an example. Yeah. Now, I want to give you, all of you, maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes to think. And then maybe in the chat window, at least 2, 3, 4 of you must give me an example where you have done any kind of a small work. What I will do is, I'll pick up that thing and explain back to you guys how you can use that to articulate your small experience in terms of front-ending stakeholders or IT teams in any way. Okay, so please give me in the chat window any kind of small experience which any of you guys have. Maybe when I'll articulate that, others also get ideas that, oh, you know what, I had also done something like that before. So that everybody can prepare a certain supporting examples, not as a BA, in whichever current role as a capacity that you may have done, but with which is somewhere close to the business analyst part. Got it? That's what we want to do. Okay. All right. Let's see if somebody have something. Okay, for example, let's say Pankaj says that he has certain experiences of connecting to business processes and systems both, right? So Pankaj, see, I agree that quite a few of you will have that, but I want actual example. When you say that I worked, let's say for example, Chaitanya, you can say I actually worked on a process which involved vendor invoice verification or customer invoice verification. Okay, what were 2, 3 steps that you did in between for that? And then also tell me what were the typical challenges which you encountered. So in your day-to-day work, day-to-day process work, if there is any kind of a small initiative or a betterment idea that you guys brought forward. Maybe you bought it, maybe the group bought it, maybe you got it from the business, maybe you and IT jointly did something. But I want to know that what was the process and what change or improvement did we bring in it. So it's okay, guys. I think I have. You update the shared Excel management. Yeah, so Krishna Chaitanya, you know what? When you say develop one software so that everybody can view the case status. Okay, so obviously it was not only for the status, right? It was for maybe a lot of other things. So you have to bring a little bit more of the core perspective from it. Okay, then as a tester, put forward the ideas of creating test cases using business process testing instead of conventional test cases. Test cases built on components and flow provided easier creation of existing. Yeah. So if I'm not wrong, that is that's called also CBT or something, right? Component-based testing plan or something like that. Yes, it uses the various components of business process itself, which makes it very easy to create the test scenarios and test it also. Yeah, no, that's fine, that's fine. But honestly, that is just a testing technique, right? I want you to tell me if while working in that, if you were able to optimize testing by creating something additional. I'm not saying creating some additional test tool, but first the testing was done in a certain way. Oh, okay, that's what you're trying to tell me. That earlier it was a non-component based testing and then you created a component based testing. Okay, I think that will be a fair example. If you can please refresh yourself with some of the actual business processes you did. For example, let's say in a component based testing, you can tell us that what were actual 3 or 4 components which you used to do a certain testing and how much effort or workload it reduced, how much efficiency became better. That statistics will also help. Okay, one experience is from one of you is prior to banking, I was with the KPU. Okay. And my work was to take care of increasing sales for advertisers on Google. Okay, very good. I was given a chance to head a team of 4 people in which I was taking care of communications between the client and the team we had. And I was suggesting ideas to help cater. Okay, so what were some of those very important ideas which led you to increase, for example, Himangi, which led you to increase the business value? Whether you gave a value back to the customer or it helped you to increase your business revenue or any kind of a bright spot idea which really helped you to connect you to your stakeholders better. Anything which brought excitement into the situation, that's what I want to know. Okay, so Shreyas is working as a as a SAP CRM functional consultants. Very good. We are planning to create some front-end mobile apps from an outside vendor. Okay, very good. We are in the planning phase. Excellent. We are deciding the scope of what all things we need to develop in the app. As a CRM, it's so vast we cannot replace it considering the volume. Okay, fantastic. So, Shreyas, when you say we are developing a CRM, customer relationship management related applications, right? Just keep yourself clear what this app is going to help in terms of a better business value. So guys, couple of points on all such examples and initiatives which you are trying to bring in. Okay, so we will probably now designate that what is that we want to bring out from it, right? Very simple, guys. From any initiative that you guys are thinking of, yeah, please first create what is the objective. Okay, first and foremost. Second thing is objectives. Second thing is what is the business discussions behind. Okay, I'm just doing in a very informal way so that you get clarity what components, what details of your initiative or examples you have to develop, right, which impresses the interviewers, right? So what are the business discussions behind? Okay, what are the challenges that you are encountering, how you're trying to obviously overcome the same. Okay, any kind of risks which you see. For example, we talked about the application for your CRM, right? So as a functional analyst, what are the risks that you have envisaged, which you can see? And obviously, how are you planning to mitigate? See, you have to bring in the very clearly, first and foremost, what is the customer perspective about it. When you say it is a CRM application, how will it help the customer? Second, how it will integrate with your existing setup, your existing IT setup. Okay. So what are you trying to explain to me? You're explaining to me there was a customer, they have certain requirements which we think from a CRM perspective needs to be captured better so that we can respond to them better, we can attend to them better. So we said, okay, let's develop an application which helps us, our customers, to to become more, it becomes more convenient for them to do this kind of a transaction with us. Okay, that's part one. Second part is that what kind of a process it will entail. Within CRM, we have multiple processes. Which process is this this thing referring to? Is it for lead management? Is it for lead development? Is it for actual sale to the customer, or how is it? Or it is post sale customer service? Yeah, detail out that process. Third thing is, obviously, it's the challenges and risk. Fourth thing is, when you are developing this application, okay, how it will integrate it into the mainline IT system, because you have an IT system, right? On top of it, you are developing an application which is probably a mobile application. Fair enough. How it will integrate, because it's like a external application which has to be integrated. Is there any interface to be done? Yes, likely. Okay. And what is kind of a data flow which is going to happen? How the customer will use this app, send us data in via interface it comes in. How do we use the data to process certain very specific transactions for this customer? How the output goes out? Okay, relate all this so that we get to understand that which way are you planning to explain this as an additional example. So guys, what will happen is, while sometimes what happens is that the actual experiences that you relate to work a lot better than typical interview answers. Okay, that is why I'm insisting that you need to develop something like that. Okay, one question is, how and when do you do a market analysis? So guys, market analysis is done almost like a stage one, or I would rather say stage zero. Before you kick off any business analysis, you need to have a certain structured data with you. A data which clearly points out to the current market potential, yeah, existing market shares of different players. Third, customer satisfaction with the different players. Fourth, unmet need of the customers. Yeah, these are typically the 4 pointers on which you focus when you do a market survey. So via the various methodologies which are there from market survey, you gather this input data, you create a pattern out of it, and that are the pattern which gives you the first heads up about how the industry is operating and how the various players are operating within that. Okay, so Sangeeta, when you do such thing, then you get a first industry heads up. Now that either you should get from a documentation or from the stakeholders itself, okay, before you start framing any requirements. But many times what happens is that a lot of new dynamics have come into the market. So typically companies prefer that you can do a market survey. Okay, so there are many very well structured market survey companies which are already existing in India. For example, like Marg, Mode, right? So what you do is that you buy data from them. Your client will buy data from them, which will give them a clear idea that, okay, let's say your customer is in chemicals, right? So there is a biannual survey which is done for all kinds of industries. Yeah. So then various industry players, yeah, buy that market surveys and its outputs from these professional agencies, which which they look at carefully and which forms the fundamentals of their business analysis. Because eventually you will, if you don't have sufficient information, then obviously you won't be able to do much on the business analysis part to begin with, right? Because process, enhancements, changes is a later story. First, when you say, I want to sit down and learn about the market, industry, how it operates, what are the dynamics, and how is my client operating within that? That time you need a market survey. Okay, so let's say Hemant, you are saying chemical specific controllers development, which involves data parsing from site to database and then showcasing in effectively to give more significant to end user. Okay, that's a very good example. So with every example that you come across, please associate those examples with the 6-7 components I have written in the chat window. Okay, so prepare details for those 6-7 components, which I've given in chat window for every initiative that you want to get prepared with. Okay, another example from banking, guys. I come from a banking domain. I have been into customer relationship management for last couple of years, 8+. When we cross-sell insurance products to the bank customers, based on customer feedbacks and new features available in the market, it has helped put our backend team to pass the information to the relevant teams to design future products which cater to customers' concerns. Excellent. For example, when the team plans that we sell never had a feature of premium back to the customer in case any mishap happens during the course of policy term, etc., etc. The product change were done post identifying the change, but yes, I can say that we were instrumental in provoking some. Okay, great. So guys, this is a good one, a good example where you have a current experience of customer relationship management. How you pass on the relevant information back to your IT teams, which helps them eventually to take a judgment on how the customer is being attended to today and what are the typical concerns the customers have, which means what are those concerns? That's exactly what I call business pain points. Now, business pain points are the genesis of your requirements, because that's what gives you the right idea that where the market has a pain point, where the market's nerve is being pinched, right? So normally it's a customer nerve which gets pinched and then they start crying. When the customer cry comes up, it is taken as a customer feedback, for a certain typical concern that the customer has from the current process or from the current applications or from the current efficiency or both. This is the most fertile ground, guys, when you start picking it up and use it for your requirement build up, because what is that concern? It's nothing but a gap. So when you say I've done fit gap analysis, okay, so that's what I will say, that's exactly what Udit has been doing. All along the way, he has been doing fit gap analysis to say, hey, in the as-is part, we have this lacuna or shortcoming, which I'm hearing from the client as a shortcoming. Okay, so he's done the fit gap analysis and he's given that feedback back to the IT teams, which is now implemented. And it comes back as an additional, addendum to the application they're using now for CRM. Yeah, I'll just type the pointers from market analysis. I'll do that, Sangeeta. Yeah. Okay, Sushant says, in my recent project, I was involved with testing a P&L application within the finance. Okay, so profit and loss application within the finance domain, which was used by finance portfolio managers. The requirements were not getting locked since a long time, and the gap was created, between the system that we had and the expectations of the client. Okay, very good. This is typical business analysis, by the way. We created a gap analysis and relayed it to the stakeholders to keep a check on existing state, to-be state, and the progress on enhancement. It allowed us to keep a check on the requirement communication between the client and testing team and to plan the future releases much more efficiently. So this is exactly business analysis. Yeah. Okay, now let's say for market analysis. Okay, so we want to see the market total potential for consumption of the product or the service. Okay, then shares, market share various players have. Okay, and then is opportunities existing and forthcoming. Okay, and then how to leverage on the opportunities, and what are those? Unmet customer needs, right? So this is, guys, what we do via market analysis. So it's just a heads up. It's a great beginning if you do a market analysis or you get hold of output of a market analysis which is already done. I would say you have a fantastic head start. Okay. All right, guys. Coming back to the interview questions. So all this is, guys, which you want to relate here. Okay, so I want to become a business analyst because I have very specific domain experiences. I've been working closely with certain stakeholders. Okay, I do front end customers. It's okay if you front end or you back end, it doesn't matter. But you are in customer relationships. All of us are in customer management in a certain way. So whatever customer and stakeholder management, small experiences that you have, okay, now I see a better future. Obviously, one of the responses for this question is I obviously see a better future for myself as a business analyst. Okay, and that is why I want to be a business analyst, because I want to interlock myself with the business. Till now, I've been more probably locking myself closer to the IT team, or I'm more in the front end. See, if you're in the front end, you're locked with customer. If you're in the back end, you're locked with the back end development teams. As a BA, you get to come to the common grounds in between. So as a BA, what do you do, which is better than before, right? So now as a BA, I'm looking forward to interact with client and customers. Yes. I want to create a strong interlock with stakeholders. Yes. I want to create a strong interlock with backend teams to help them develop apps. Yes. I want to get closer interlock with data analytics team so that I can guide them from the domain or a functional perspective, right? Yeah. So see, suddenly your portfolio increases tremendously. And that is your pitch when you want to say, I come from a testing background, business process testing, right from conception to the grand finale has been my forte. I did a transactional part, but I also carefully looked at the business part, for example. So guys, this explanation works for anyone. Okay. So use this common explanation, use couple of prior experiences, tell them that what is your vision to see a much bigger broader future portfolio for yourself, for which that's why you came in, you did certification, you related that back to your domain, and now you want someone to give you that opportunity where you can start exercising the same. Okay, all right. Then, if you're able to obviously give a good answer to this, the next immediate question, guys, is suggest 3 challenges that you see for yourself as a business analyst. Now, obviously, guys, you have not been business analyst. Now, when you're trying to prove that you can be a good business analyst, and your response to question 1 is been quite convincing, they're likely to ask you that, Chaitanya, you have not been a BA, right? But you looks like that you are ready to become a business analyst. Fair enough, not a problem. What are the 3 top challenges you see for yourself?
What do you think is going to be the kill factor, when you come into this field? What is that is going to unnerve you? What is that you would really say that, okay, these are going to be my three biggest challenges, right? So guys, see, there can be two answers to it. One can be the generic answers. Let's say stakeholder management. Yeah, you see yourself getting into that challenge. But I'll strongly suggest that we shouldn't say anything like that, because stakeholder management is one of the principal job or task that you do as a BA. Okay, so if you probably express your apprehension that stakeholder management itself might be a big challenge which I'm looking at, I think that may not be a very good answer. Okay, so now guys, couple of you, anybody amongst you, I want you to tell me honestly. I'm sure in the last 2 months or whatever, you have been, imagining yourself that tomorrow when you'll become a BA, what is the likely first big one, two, three? What is the top two, three challenges which you have always thought, oh my God, how am I going to handle that, man? Because as Mukhraj is now taking us through the BA profiling and descriptions and details, I see that there are certain key things which a BA has to attend to every now and then. Yeah, but you don't seem to be ready for it. What are those three things? Okay, tell me now so that I can tell you how you can remove your apprehension. Because I don't want that apprehension to come from you in front of your interviewer, and then he should be able to catch you there. Okay, okay, guys, let me know any examples you want to give me as a true top challenges which you see for yourself as a BA. Hey guys, none of you have see any challenge for yourself? Okay, I got some now. So see, one thing, let's be clear, guys. Stakeholder, yes, they are challenges, right? So what I meant was, you don't have to upfront say that stakeholder management would be a challenge, but yes, you can say something like that. That stakeholders which are just not ready to finalize requirements, for example, they are just not ready to take any decision. Yes, that can be accepted as a good challenge situation, because that's not only for BA, that's for everybody. So handling some kind of a, let's call them confused stakeholders, yeah, and okay, so Rishabh, another big good challenge which you are saying is managing the changes, but don't say BRD changes. Just say frequently changing requirements. So guys, in every field, there are some very democratically acceptable challenges. So in business analysts, right, frequently changing requirements is one key challenge. It is in real life, it is there. everybody encounters it, and people have to, get over that. Now, how do you manage the overall situation to get over that? That is again project to project. But as a business analyst, it's okay if you want to say that frequently changing requirement, which make sure that I'm not able to freeze the requirements, take a go decision on it, and pass it to my IT teams for related developments. Okay, so, and of course, if you say that these are my challenges, which I think, the next question is going to be, how do you plan to address them? Okay, now guys, right? For example, the fantastic answer to the frequently changing requirements is baselining, right? So please explain the process of baselining. How would you institutionalize that within your business analysis, so that you keep a tab on your stakeholders that frequently changing requirements will not be attended to, or they will be attended to, but beyond baseline, which means first, the key requirements which are firmed up within baseline, they will be finalized and passed on to the IT for developments, and you will oversee their developments in the SDLC cycle, right? Then comes priority 2, which is there were requirements, very important, but they could not be fitted into the scope which was within the first baseline scope of the project. So it's okay if some, and of course, you want to keep a very, very clear tab on the business reasons, justifiable business reasons which are making that that change happen in the requirement side. If there are logical business explanation for that, that's fine. Okay, but you will not entertain any kind of a non-business reasons which are not powerful enough to change your requirement. So you stick to your current requirement and you finalize the same. Even if you have to encounter certain hostility from your stakeholders, but you have to go ahead on that. So show some firm determination in any kind of an interview like this. Tell them that I'm clear. I may not have encountered many stakeholders. I may not have actually encountered many changing requirements, but the fact is my vision is clear that tomorrow when I'm going to encounter, what exactly I'm going to do. So similarly, I think Jayashree, you are mentioning one good one, unambiguous customer needs, right? So it's a challenge to reach to a clarity where the customer needs are fully defined, they are transparent, they are understandable, and there's no ambiguity about it, right? But it doesn't really happen. And hence it is a clear challenge for anybody like you who is going to be, a business analyst in near time future. So again, a mitigation for this is, guys, that you keep pursuing the ambiguous part in your requirement, and then come to a clear conclusion that whether it's worthwhile, to even keep that requirement into the current list, or you actually have to drop that because the ambiguity part in your requirement is just not getting cleared. Okay, another challenge, guys, which Sumit suggests is stakeholders who request for the on-the-spot resolution or a quick fix. So Sumit, honestly, that's more easier to handle. Okay, and even if somebody asks you this question in the interview, tell them that, guys, I'm a business analyst. I'm not a quick fix solution guy. See, my fundamentals come from deeper analysis. It comes from a evolving model of a solution which is done for bigger issues. Since the issues are big, we can almost never have a quick fix solution. Okay, even if the stakeholders may insist for me to give them a quick fix solution, I never generally do that, because this, you can also call it my way of handling my stakeholders, handling their quick fix solution expectations. You guys, there cannot be a quick fix solution for most of the things, let alone a business analyst situation. Since you are a BA, okay, it's just, you are not a BA just because you know how to attend to stakeholders, what methodologies to use, how to use different techniques for finalizing requirements, how to interact with IT. That's one part of the story. The reason why you are a good BA is because you are patient enough to give a deep dive attention to the current as a situation, so that you can do a good feedback to create a nice and tidy, efficient to be. Cannot this all be done in a quick fix? No, it cannot be done. Then in that case, I am not a quick fix guy. Okay, so you can attend to these questions very well. Okay, another common challenge which I think many of you have in your mind, but I think Udit is bringing it up, is that so some of you may feel that you don't have any IT background, right? So any IT jargon is going to trouble you, and to some extent I agree. Yeah. And on the other hand, I feel stakeholders management should be easy because I've been in doing the same changes for the last couple of years. Okay, good. So guys, I'll attend to this challenge. I am not from an IT background. Yeah. And I might have a challenge to handle the IT terminology. So guys, there are two mitigations for this. One, please do a good overview reading for most of the IT apps which are in a broader category, right? For example, ERPs, big data, analytics, intelligence, business intelligence, and so on and on, right? All these are major IT application portfolios, and you can jolly well do a good read into this and all that. This is for the overview part. So at least once you are thoroughly okay with the overview part, you know what that app does, what are the typical category of applications which render a certain useful function, in which industries they are normally done. So at least for your own domain, let's say you are from banking or finance, for example. So please do a good overview from into this ERPs and non-ERP related applications from a finance or a banking perspective. At least that overview part is clear, that you don't have any trouble in terms of using the same terminology in conversing. Okay. As far as detailed terminologies are concerned, I think you don't have to really worry about it, because then of course, your IT teams are always there. They have to be there in every situation, okay, where details about the technical part is coming up, right? So then you leave that thing to them. But yes, to drive discussions, having a good overview and understanding about typical applications which are prevalent in your specific domain will be a good idea. Okay. Okay, one challenge which somebody is suggesting is approaching the right stakeholder for the right requirement. So guys, this is something which should not be a challenge, because you should have actually done a thorough stakeholder analysis to come to a clear conclusion that which stakeholder is restricted to which area, which processes, what kind of a decision making abilities, and how they can be useful for you. Once you have done that stakeholder analysis, then I think this should not be a challenge, that which stakeholder is going to give you what kind of requirement. Okay. Sushant suggests initial challenges might be faced in acclimatizing to the existing business process and providing a solution which will fulfill the stakeholder needs, etc., etc. So guys, this is a kind of a challenge, which honestly is a lighter challenge. When I said before going to the stakeholders, if you are able to do 2-3 things very well. One, please read through the existing industry perspective, which exists for your client. So let's say your client is a banking client, right? So typically get the inputs on the industry operations, on the latest and the greatest in the industry at this point of time, about typically what kind of business values the various players in the industry is giving to their customers in form of products or services. Okay, just do a journal read. Once that read is clear, the next stage is set, because your client would have sent you a lot of pre-read material. Everybody does, they all do. And that acclimatizes to the fact that within this industry, what are the services offerings of your client, the client where you're not going to work as a business analyst. Yeah. So how do they operate? What are their visions? What are their plans to attend to their customers? What are their visions and methodologies, to get better market shares, etc., etc., etc. So once you do that, what do you get? What do you get out of it? You get a good deep dive information about the way your client operates in that industry. Okay, these two things put together, then you go and approach your stakeholders, who then take you through their as-is processes. So then that's a third component which comes to you. So then you get familiar with the as-is processes of your clients, which are now obviously specific processes. With these three things, guys, your as-is understanding is pretty much done. Yeah. So I appreciate that you might tell me, Sushant, that this could be a challenge, but also please think that what could be the relevant right steps to use to overcome that challenge. Okay. So just align your thinking from a solution mode perspective also. Then trust me, no challenge is going to look like a big challenge for you guys. Yeah. But in any case, what are we discussing? We are discussing that if somebody asks us what could be your possible challenges, yes, give them some challenge perspective, but also give them what you have thought about, the possibility of multiple measurements which you will undertake to eradicate those challenges. Okay. So that is what makes your answers absolutely complete. All right, perfect. All right, guys, coming to question number 3. So, guys, these are some of the best questions. If you're familiar with how to respond to each one of them in a very comfortable manner, I think you are going to do quite well for yourself. Okay. Question number 3, guys. How does a BA contribute to business value creation? So guys, this is a very deep, thoughtful question. Okay, so before I answer it, I want you to put your mindset into it, and please give me at least one pointer each one of you. How do you think business analyst helps to create business value? Okay, so as a creator of business value, now imagine yourself telling your interviewer that I'm probably not just a BA. I see myself as a creator of business values. So the answer is very impressive, But of course, if he wants you to explain that answer, then I want you to be prepared. So guys, I request all one of you to give me at least one pointer. How do you think business analyst helps to create business value? Okay. So yeah, let me know and then I can package it all together and then give you a comprehensive answer. All right, let's read through the business values. Okay. So guys, obviously, best solutions and stuff. I mean, we don't need adjectives here. And then, this is more of a wish list. Right business analyst, right project manager, right, and lead to project success. This is that typical kind of a very short forms. So not these guys, to analyze the challenges, shortcomings of processes in order to provide the value. Not really. In order to provide best solution, kind of okay, not too good. Then BA directly deals with the clients to know the exact requirements and help to pitch in for new business opportunities. Well, in a way, Sumangal, that's fine. So additional business is always welcome, but in the current business process, what is that you do? What do? You basically treat the business process, right? When you give this treatment, what do you do that the process starts behaving different? I want to know that addendum, because that's what is creating the business value out of a so-called ordinary business process. Okay, this is a kind of a good one. As Hemant says, we optimize the processes. Since we optimize, okay, we tend to resolve the problems or the issues which maybe a customer often faces while using our process. So when you optimize, you remove those typical cranking issues in your process usage. If you do that, your customer is going to have a better experience, right? So what maybe Hemant is trying to say is that we do a design thinking kind of an approach to optimize our processes so that the nuisance value which our business processes create for our customers are done away with. Since the nuisance value is done away with, our customer experience becomes far better. When the customer experience becomes much better, then it promotes customer loyalty towards our product and services, which obviously brings the right business revenues and the associated profits along with it, right? So what are the three business values you created here? Well, apart from better business revenues and profits, I ended up creating a better customer experience. And that is the best value, business value which you created, because that customer experience is going to stay with the process. It's going to stay between you and your client or your customer. Okay, and every time your customer uses a particular process, for example, to order something for himself, that customer experience is something which they take away. So when let's say we shop on Amazon, right? A very good online experience of shopping is something which we carry away with ourselves. Not exactly what they deliver to our place, right? So you order, let's say, a t-shirt. What stays with you is the overall experience of end to end, right? Which created the right business value in you as a customer, and then you always stay typically with Amazon.com. So as a business analyst of Amazon, what you do is now becomes clear to you as a business value. Okay, one more thought is, since BA acts as a strong interface between business and IT, one of the great business value which BA creates is to help to create a consensus amongst the two. Now, even though I think, though it's kind of a reasonable argument, but typically this is more of a back-end understanding which you are bringing between business and IT. Yeah, so guys, business value is always normally from a front-end perspective. Now, it's different thing that unless you create this consensus in the back end, you won't be able to develop the right app. Why do I call the application as the right application? Because business has given you enough feedback to make sure that when it gets developed, your customer is going to love it. So that it is a good business value. But unless the consensus is there, the app which will develop, yeah, it won't be a right creative mix, because if the IT never really understood the business vision behind the application, okay, then they can't create an application which will be also very useful for the customer, because the business perspective will be missing from it. It's just another thing. So as an IT team, I understand, I don't understand anything. I don't care. I just create an app, put it back on your business. And then your business will say, oh, this is not really customized to our business needs. And hence, consensus really matters in order to drive the process of creating a better business value. So Rishabh, even I may say, okay, creating the right strategy to help productivity is a good idea. But actually the answer to such questions is always in terms of on the execution front. What do you do to create a better business value? Hey guys, mic test 1 2 3. Am I audible enough? Oh yeah, okay. All right. I think I just got a comment in the a little while back that audibility was a little challenge. But if I'm good, then I'm good. Okay. All right. Good. So guys, coming back to the question, what is a good packaged answer for this? So sorry, Rishabh. No, it's not that. If it is about execution, then you are in a way project coordinators. If we call somebody a coordinator, it's only doing a coordination job. You are responsible to create the requirements from the conception itself, and you create requirements by doing a deep dive in the business process. And when you do a deep dive with business process, you go right up to the as-is and then the gap analysis. Then you do a related fit gap analysis and then a cost benefit analysis along with it. That's not a coordination job, right? It's a creative job. That's right, guys. Your role is more of a creation than a coordination. Okay, guys, I want to tell you one thing also. When such questions are being discussed, don't give a flat answer that BA is contributes to business value creation in terms of creating better customer experiences, creating necessary facilitators which help to create bigger customer revenues, revenues and profits. Always answer in a more descriptive way. Yeah. So always suggest that always originate these responses from your role itself. Because if you give a response saying that the role itself demands that we need to create requirements from a deep dive, conception perspective. We do bring in design thinking after understanding the entire industry perspective as is and the gaps there. Since you do this, you eventually tend to create requirements which are directly responsible to sustain the business process in terms of better efficiency from a long-term perspective, right? Now if you're obviously describing your you're articulating your role like this, it obviously comes across that this person has the ability to think from a longer future perspective, which means tomorrow if he is a BA, he will obviously analyze and create requirements from a long-term organization betterment perspective. So guys, in the interview, typically you don't give answers, you give your perspectives. A perspective which is acceptable, which is least controversial, which cannot be too much cross-questioned, and which describes the clarity of your thought. That is what we call very, very acceptable answers, which demonstrate your inner abilities to imagine your role in a long-term ideas, right? That is what I want to, I'm preparing you for. Yes, Rishabh, that's right. That we are also obviously responsible for, the fundamental creation of that user experience. And honestly, that is also more from a business process and system perspective both. Because it should be built in the system only, right? And so, yes, getting the conception from a process perspective and executing that in the system. When you club these two things together, that has to be leading to a business benefit or business value creation. So that is good to go, guys. Okay. So yes, let me do one thing. Let me relate back to one of the actual examples which we did, and then I'll tell you that how you can explain the business value creation. Okay, you remember we did an example where one of my experiences was that it was for creation of that additional screens for the user to checkmate on the financial outstanding of their customers, right? So you remember the example where I said, all right, a user, when he gets the customer order and he creates the order, he wants to have a screen, additional screen or a pop-up kind of a thing, which should give him the entire detailed history of the orders, the and invoice collections, etc. about the customer or any pendency from a financial viewpoint from the last 6 months or 1 year. Looking at and the status of the customer, that whether it's a priority or a non-priority customers, what is the current outstanding, and how much is that the finance can tolerate. Let's say if the outstanding is very long and the money has not yet been collected, then you can block order. Now, and and then the requirement was to develop a certain functional module which on inputting the order, when you put the customer ID, it should run across the database and to fetch the entire transactions history of that customer, as it is popped up in a very methodical way, so that the user doesn't have to look too much into the details, right? So that's where you develop the additional requirement of a report. So this financial outstanding has to be in form of a clearly defined report which says in the last 10 invoices in the last, let's say, 6 months or 1 year or whatever, how much is that the credit worthiness of the customer is. And if he has been defaulting, then you don't have to supply the next order. So the key requirement was, one, to develop a program which can bring certain data. Second, to bring the data in a very specific report format. All right. So when you discuss those requirements and now it's executed, which means now the customer has the ability to look at the financial credit worthiness of the customer before sending an additional order. What did you do? Now this is enabling the user to take a better decision, so that a good customer is not disappointed and a bad customer is not obliged. Because if you're obliging a bad customer with add-on material inventory, the outstanding against them is increasing, right? And then you as a company are missing on that money to turn it around in a different turnaround cycle. You're not able to use that money because the money of the customer of your company is locked with that customer. So you enable the user to take a better decision. And if it is done systematically for all users, you can imagine how much of a business value a BA ends up creating. So with a single stroke of a good requirements being built in the system itself, hundreds and thousands of users across the globe are now switching on to the new policy of a financial control, which is leading to very good results for the company from an actual kind of financial outstanding perspective. That is the value which you have created in that example, right? And now it's not just a small quantitative value, it's a very specific, deep-rooted value which is now you have created in the system, so that now things will actually just never go wrong. Yeah, so that is, guys, how you can explain the the value creation part. Himangi and others, is this okay? Okay, then let's shift to the other one. Okay, let's discuss this question 4, guys, and then we'll probably take a break. Okay, interesting. So, guys, don't we are just covering 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 questions. Behind covering the responses for each question, if you may have realized, we are refreshing the various knowledge components and their practical applicability as a BA. So we are actually discussing a lot. And if some of you are making some smart, quick notes or something, I think they're going to be very, very useful for you. Okay. All right, guys. Role of a BA beyond BRD. So all that, kind of a Mahabharata that we have created for business analysts, right? A lot is about stakeholder management, right analysis, as if fit gap, to be finalizing requirement, baselining, cost budget analysis, risks, assumptions, and finally bringing all that into the BRD, right? Okay. Now, I want, obviously, as usual, I want from each one of you to tell me what is your understanding, guys. That is, if this is the mainline role of a business analyst, yeah, and if it is, then is there any role of a business analyst beyond BRD? Yeah. So let me hear from you. What percentage of role is pre-BRD and what percentage of role is post-BRD? So pre-BRD, we have all understood very well. It's a very significant role. What is the significant role of BA beyond BRD? Yeah. So take about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Give me a crisp note, and then I can I'll change this response for you. All right, there are quite a few responses. That's good. All right, role of BA beyond BRD. All right, guys. First of all, mic test 1, 2, 3. Please let me know if this is okay. Is the voice loud and clear? Mic test 1, 2, 3. Mic test 1, 2, 3. All right. Okay, good. And now let's read through your responses. Okay, the first response is okay. Sumangal says to facilitate the gap between IT and customer to bring them on a common page. So Sumangal, that was pre-BRD. See, unless you brought them together on a same consensus, obviously your requirements only will not get finalized. And on top of it, the detailed solution which is being kind of proposed to the customer will not get accepted by the customer. So in that case, you have not even reached the BRD stage, because you reach and finalize your BRD only when the business and IT perspective are both interrelated, consensus is formed, solution is drawn, and that is put up on the BRD. Yeah, so this is still pre-BRD. I'm saying pre-BRD is everything is done. What about post-BRD? Okay. Okay, so Rishabh says on attending the queries for all the development testing team. Yes, very much. Coordinating with the testing team on the product being tested correctly. Okay, and in conjunction with the user's ideas, right? Third thing is looking over the functional aspect of the systems plus UAT, etc. I think yes, guys, this is a good way to articulate the 4 key roles which BA does in the capacity of a business analyst in SDLC cycle. Okay, Udit suggests that it's more of an ongoing process. So Udit has a slightly different idea. Probably wants to say that it's not about a milestone where we say BRD is created, job 1 done. Now let's look at the job 2 of the BA, which is about post the milestone of BRD creation. Right? So Udit has an idea, and I think I appreciate this thing, that it's eventually always an evolving thing. Yes, there is a BRD kind of a creation and acceptance of the same, but eventually if you see, guys, that the idea behind the requirement which is now integrated with the application part, it may undergo some changes, it keeps evolving. So probably what Udit wants to say is that BRD creation is never the break point. Yes, BRD is a mechanism to collate all the details, okay, to comprehensively justify your solution. So his idea is that the role of BA is actually much more than just the BRD creation. And that's exactly what, I wanted somebody to say that. So guys, he's involved at every step, whether it is, right in the beginning for the problem statement identification, or for very gradual and slow evolution of high level solution, eventually going into a detailed solution, right? So Udit wants to say that the deliverables of the BAs involve, also involve looking at the customer solutions and the better management in a long-term perspective, right? And this is all what he bundles and packages to ensure that the solution provided, in case there are changes with the times which are coming up, the solution is flexible enough to accommodate those changes, even though it stays firm on its principal grounds. Yeah. So I think, guys, this is a very good explanation, I must say, right? So as a suitable response to the things, guys, always keep it in a little more free flowing discussion mode, because also from the fact that BA role is such, had it been, let's say, kind of a more cutout kind of a profile for a BA, then the answer could have been a little more formal, a little more, answers with right edges. But the BA's role profiling is more of a free flowing thing. It's more round edges. It doesn't really stop at a particular place. Again, it collapses back into the same discussion which we had at the beginning of the session, that the BA role is more of a artist and a scientist both. Since there are qualitative attributes which are very significant contribution from the business analyst, hence this kind of an explanation will make sense. So the fact is that post BRD obviously eventually means that, hey, as a post BRD guy, I'm going to make sure that the IT teams, whatever stage of development they are, writing design specification, writing functional specification, writing technical specification, actually doing the coding, and then subsequently testing. Everywhere my job as a BA is clear. I have to keep the business perspective of my requirements alive, kicking, and on the dashboard all the time, so that whatever specs they are writing, they must never forget that what was the key business status of the need from where we worked upon and we brought all these requirements alive. So as a one liner, if you want to say, hey, my role is to make sure that in spite of being a very IT team, they never compromise on the business perspective which was responsible for creating this requirement. Since that kind of a need was thought of to create requirement, hence to address the same need must be the fundamental principle of my IT solution. Okay. All right, great. Good, guys. So I really hope that you guys are making some good notes and all that, because that's good. It'll always keep on refreshing your responses, etc. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so guys, shall we take a break now and then join back in about maybe 20 minutes to continue with the rest? Okay. Okay, guys. So let's take a break. It's 6 o'clock. Let's be back by 6:15 or 6:20, something in between. Yeah. Okay, guys, let's be back. All right, guys, switching back, switching back. Okay. So, guys, just a checkpoint here. I hope you guys are able to, get the basic essence of what we are trying to do. And I'm obviously hoping that what we are discussing and articulating is some kind of a firm notes which you are registering with yourself, either on a notebook or in your mind, and you're going to stay with them in order to refresh yourself when in the coming few weeks, months onwards, when you'll be ready to actually start applying stuff. Yeah, this is some kind of a profiling that we are discussing and generating as a business analyst, which will stay with you for all kind of descriptions, detailings, explanations, which you would like to use these notes to defend your viewpoints. Yeah. Okay. Fine, guys, let's move beyond now. Guys, in the recent phenomena that we have seen in the changing trends of business analysts, etc., question number 5 has been sounding a lot more often, which I've seen that various interviewers want to discuss with their potential candidates in order to hear their opinion. Yeah, role of a business analyst in change management. Okay, so here, guys, maybe I want to give certain thoughts and viewpoints, but in case you are ready with some things from your side, you can please post it as well. Okay, guys, any quick pointers you want to give me? Change management, guys, from a user perspective, one of the critical areas where clients are very, very apprehensively looking at the fact that how the key driver of all the business changes. Yeah. How the key drivers of the business changes, which is the business analyst, how it can help, to drive these implication of these changes as a learning platform for the key users so that they are able to incorporate that, into their daily walk of life. So any ideas, guys? Somebody want to give me? Okay, so BA plays a pivotal role in change management since one of his key responsibilities is to changes within the system, basis of the changing market scenario, blah blah blah, anticipation of changes while doing elicitation. How can future change be inculcated within the process? Jayashree has to say that analyze why the change is needed within the project scope, etc., etc. Okay, so guys, let me pack it up for you. Change management is the most integral form of an execution which is responsible for creation of high project success for any business changes. Now, it's, what I would like to describe it as, given a choice, if I would like to answer this question, I will say, guys, this is a full cycle coming back. Okay, so it's a full cycle of a circle, and allow me to explain that. You remember that when we started discussing these changes, etc., they were all originating from the business itself, obviously, right? And guys, uh, whether, I don't know whether we want to, discuss it that way, but the fact is that at an execution level, it is basically what is the execution layer of business? Isn't that the key users? Because users, I don't know whether we really describe that. Users are, obviously from business, but they are more at transactional level or execution level. So we would say, hey, these users are closer to the system. And I think we will jolly well tend to agree this, guys, that the business users, which are closer to the system, are the best bet, are our best bet, who facilitate a business analyst knowledge and information to gather the right requirements, because they know business and they know system both. So when you say, hey, what is your requirement? Honestly, who cares the requirements, which could be so much purely deep rooted from business perspective? I will be much more thrilled if somebody from business is giving me the requirement in conjunction with IT systems. And hence, key users from business sides are the best guys whom, at least I consider them as the best people from the business portfolio who are able to categorically help you. Okay. All right, good. Now, where are we? So we are saying, hey, change management is for the key users, but key users are the again people who are the best bet for us in order to elicit the right requirements. So what is happening, guys? The origin or the conception of the requirements, which started from them, has eventually converged back to them only in form of now creating a learning platform for them so that they are able to comprehend and now effectively learn how to make best use of the implemented solution now for which they only had helped us to create the requirement. Got it? And hence it's a full circle coming round. Now, what is the exciting part of change management, guys? The change management ensures that your interlock with your same users with whom you had extensive discussions for requirement business, right? You now end up being their mentor or their trainer in order to now make them understand what is the implication of this application in the IT system. And obviously you are helped by function analysts and testers, etc., because those are the guys which are very close to the system. So in terms of an actual, let's say, a training program on the system for familiarity with the new changes in the system, the screens, the user menus and all that stuff, like these IT guys help you to conduct that program. But again, I firmly believe, and I have demonstrated that in my experiences, that eventually it is the business analyst which is since he's closest possible to these users right from the beginning of this cycle. Hence, he is the right change driver. Okay, so guys, you are the right change drivers. So with this confidence, please you can now respond to this answer that the role of business analyst in change management is very significant for two reasons. One, he has been the original contributor to design creation with the users. Second, his business interlock with the user has been the origin of this entire cycle of activities. So when we are now concluding the project in terms of a well-developed functionality, we are looking forward for the same change driver, which is the business analyst, to drive this incubation of this learnings within the user community so that they are well acquainted with the changes which have come into the system. Now the next question which immediately come to you is, how do you ensure that? And then guys, you have to give a working mechanism of how do you involve the users, obviously in requirement discussions, needless to say. But after that, how do you involve them in terms of validating the specifications which are being written in SDLC? Part 1. Part 2, how you should and must involve them in extensive testing exercises which are being done by your testing team so that they can witness functional testing, integration testing, and other kind of testing so that they are fully aware about the nuances of the business process flow at a transactional level so that they are able to learn that and inherit that so that they can be the right takeover points from the IT team, because after the go live the IT team will support the functionality for some time and then they will obviously go away. But then a well developed user community is the next stop point which takes over this inheritance from the IT teams and carries forward the success of those functionalities in the system. And hence, their enablement and trainings are key to the success of the project. Yep. Understood, guys? See, sometimes you have to give. So if you understood the way I was answering this, guys, you see, I'm tending to create a flow. It's not a flat answer. It's like a flow which takes into consideration and obviously makes sure that your entire understandings and learnings of the business analysis life cycle is coming forth or coming forward, to display itself in front of your interviewer, right? And that is why, guys, it makes it makes sense for you to flow. Make sure that your flow goes accordingly. Okay, a couple of queries here, so let me attend to them. Okay, so guys, important question from Rishabh. What about the change management in agile? So guys, I want to clarify one thing here. The role of a BA is almost the same how it is in a waterfall and how it is in agile. Honestly, if you ask me, I have been a change manager, I've been a business analyst, and I am still for almost an equal division of projects which are between waterfall and agile. But trust me, the fundamental essence of the value contribution which the business analyst brings in doesn't change. I'm still pretty much responsible for requirement finalization. I'm still pretty much responsible for BRDs and, of course, the change management part. It doesn't really differ at all. The only thing is that in a agile, since the users are quite mature, so honestly, the change management practice doesn't need to be very, very significantly important in agile because the users are very well aware about their requirements and that's what they are able to articulate back to you, and hence in the small changes, right, the development cycle goes faster. Now also one of the reasons why change management is not very significant in agile is that the larger requirements are all broken down into simpler requirements. Since each particular requirement at a line item is a rather small requirement, hence within the life cycle of development of the requirement itself, the user gets pretty much acquainted by the impact and implication of that change in the system. And of course, agile is a model where users are very closely involved, much more than the waterfall, yeah, in terms of conceptual requirements and its execution and development. So if they are anyways your close buddy throughout the development life cycle, right, then obviously they are fairly acquainted with how this functionality is going to reflect itself in the system, and hence the so-called change management for in an agile cycle is but remember, Rishabh, your role doesn't change. You are still carrying the same fundamental principles about the objectives and the roles and responsibilities which you have with yourself as a BA. Yes, in agile cycle, things are faster. The pace is much faster. But honestly, the velocity of the things could be faster and slower. But obviously, none of these things are ever able to actually change the essential part of your role, right? So it says the same way. Okay, now guys, look at this question. Question 9. Yeah, I'm just deliberately leaving these three questions in between because they are very quick discussions. I'm just coming to the very important ones, which have a significant mind share from an interview point of view. What is the purpose of business analysts within an organization? So, I mean, there are so many things which a business analyst does actually. And if I want to package this up all together, I think it's going to take a minute. But of course, let's try to do that. Within an organization, what should I say a business analyst is? Is he one responsible for driving the changes from an end-to-end cycle? I would say yes. Is he responsible to have the right interlock with business, arrive at the same understanding about the as-is, so that in joint conjunction with business he's able to articulate the best to be? I would say yes. Is the responsibility of business analysts to actually only focus on value creation much beyond the operational aspects of business process and IT? I would say yes. So the role of a BA ranges from planning or as a strategist to align the organizational needs to its vision and to give it a practical shape. It ranges from that to the fact that he is the one responsible to drive the requirements for the entire build up and its evolution at a ground level till the time it is able to reach a level where it is able to execute, train the users, and is able to fully integrate that. So, I mean, if you want to articulate, guys, frankly, sky's the limit. Because, but for that, I must tell you one thing, yeah? You have to feel. You have to feel the intensity of this role in you. Trust me, after that, the discussions are so convenient and so good that you're able to defend your point of view. You're able to articulate your thoughts. You're able to articulate thoughts in a very, very well designed manner. The counter questions to your point of view is rather not too heavy, right? And it's more successful, I would say, rounds of discussion which you will probably have, right? So anyway, so I think, guys, honestly, if you look at the portfolio of the questions, frankly, the responses for all of that revolve around a storyline of how a BA develops things, how he creates, how he manages, how he executes, and how he oversees or supervises everything from end to end. If you look at these 5 components, the details of these 5 components on this how to part, yeah, you will get almost the answers for everything. All right, so let's see. So guys, rest are pretty operational questions. Difference between functional requirements, non-functional requirements, attribute of good business requirements. I think this is all we have done in much more details in our discussions in sessions. Purpose of requirement traceability, RACI model, etc., etc. Okay, by the time, what we'll do is I would like to come, flash the agile specific slides, and let's refresh our agile concept. Okay, so just give me a minute here. Let me go back to the agile slides, bring them up again, so that we can discuss a bit more on them. Yeah, of course, I'll go to question 14 also, but let me just find out the agile part, so that we are able to cover that in detail. I remember in some of our executions we have those slides sessions. Yeah, I think I found them. Okay, sorry, you want to go to question 14, yeah? Okay, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good question, actually. So, guys, question 14. When you say, how do you use a RACI model? So, guys, it's a very important question, because it brings out a clear differentiation between what are the roles and responsibilities of a business analyst. Yeah, and not just a business analyst. See, what is success? Success of a business analyst is obviously not that because standalone, he or she is a great person. Success of a business analyst largely comes from the fact that how effectively the business analyst is able to bind the stakeholders, all sorts of stakeholders, into a common project vision. And remember, that's a job which your project manager will not do because stakeholders are your babies. Yeah. Since you understand them well enough, it's up to you to comprehend that situation. Okay. Now, RACI. So guys, RACI comes from the fact that it's R stands for responsible, A for accountable, yeah, S for supported, C for consulted, I for informed, right? And so let me also put it in the chat window. So responsible is, guys, somebody who's the actual doer, and most of the activity this is the BA itself. The other one is accountable. Now, what is accountable? Actually, first of all, what is the doer part? Doer part is, okay, who's leading the initiative, who's leading the discussions, arriving at conclusion of the requirements, etc., etc. Okay, that's the BA. Accountable. So, who is accountable for this entire game plan? Is it the BA? But the BA is the doer. Who's accountable for the fact that BA should get all the informations and etc. Yeah, that is the stakeholders. Yep. So A goes to stakeholders, R goes to BA, S goes for supported. So typically from a support perspective, what is that? I mean, who is the one who is going to provide that tactical support? Okay. So it could be your IT teams, because on certain design specifications, they are definitely going to help drive the requirement related discussions by providing inputs from a design part. Okay. Then C is consulted. Who do you consult while devising the requirements? Maybe if you're having discussion with very regional specific business stakeholders, you will say, fine, whatever I gather as info in terms of fit gap analysis, I would like to probably validate with some of the key users. In that case, key users become, in front of the consulted part. You need to consult them, right? So that they are able to validate and give you a go ahead on that. The last one is informed from I. What is informed? Informed is, guys, about some of the stakeholders who are not actively involved. Let's call them passive stakeholders, right? So the passive stakeholders are the one whom we say we just need to inform them. We don't have to consult them, we don't have to involve them in active discussions, but from an information point of view, it's like in the CC of the email. So they need to be in CC because they need to have a view on what is being developed and why. Okay. So that is the RACI model. Essentially, again, it is a matrix which allocates the right roles and responsibilities to different people, be it business analysts, be it stakeholders, be it IT teams, etc., etc., so that everybody is clear that on this project, how much of their involvement is required, why that is required, when that is required, what is the input that will be given to them, what is the output that will be expected from them. For example, from the accountability part, the stakeholders know eventually have to, kind of, they have to eventually get to know that that they are accountable to make sure that they have to provide the right stakeholders to the business analyst. So they are accountable for that. Even though once they provide that needful help, the business analyst will obviously drive the discussion. So he's responsible to frame and finalize the discussions. But from an accountability part, it goes to the stakeholders, right? That is how the RACI model is derived and discussed among all. Okay. All right, guys. Let's. I want to show you those agile slides. Okay. So I think Rishabh, you wanted to know certain key aspects about agile perspective, right? So if you can just put them in the chat window, I can probably help to explain everybody about. I mean, we know how agile works, but I think you have some specific queries. If you can put it in the chat window, I can explain the agile part once again. Yeah, please do that. Okay, thanks.
इसी में पढ़ा रहे हैं जी दरवाजा बंद करो यार प्लीज No, I just had. यार कुदरत ने और शॉर्ट्स नहीं छोटी वो पाई सी to enhance the index she put a long trench coat with very short shorts. Anyway, I'll probably she was obviously looking tan hot, so I told her, yeah, this is like actually coming मैं lift को लाइक एक डैडी खड़ा सी छोटी कुड़ी नाल उन्हें आके अपनी कुड़ी का ना मुंह उधर करके उन्हें अक्खा बंद कर दी just in long trench coat with just short shorts. It's a viewpoint, yeah. What do you mean? What? Stop giving that reaction. See, we are too old to do that now. When you say, oh, really? Okay, seriously, but oh, yeah, definitely. मैं देखते हैं, see, girls always tend to exude their temptress quotient. See, that is what also is one of the hallmarks of the female community. Why they are viewed like that. Any shorty shorts. Full thighs, a go pictures, that's it. Then don't blame guys to view you like that, right? Because that needs another 50 years of education to tell you that, okay, that, so much of skin. You know that skin game, yeah. So what I'm saying is that Korea में मतलब काफी कोशिश कर दिया ना that we are तो फिर वो थोड़ी profiling भी फिर जल्दी anyway दरवाजा बंद कर दे. Oh God, sorry, I forgot to put it on mute. Sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry guys, apologies. It was a very private conversation with my wife. Oh goodness me. But okay, please forget about that. Okay, Rishabh says in the entire cycle, where does BA fit in? Because all the discussion with clients are done on a daily basis. Okay, that should not be a challenge, Rishabh. That's for sure.
Okay, guys, I got your idea. I think Rishabh is having a query on that the business analyst may not be the main driving factor, for example, for requirements and related discussions in a agile cycle, right? So it's not like that, definitely not like that. So let me try to explain that. Any other query? Rishabh says, do we get into the functional spec of the system and regular communication with the business? If there are any issues, does that come under BA's work scope? Right. So Rishabh, one of my principal answers comes from the same thing. The previous situation when I said, hey, agile or other, it doesn't change your role. That's part number one. Now, let's understand it from a top-down approach. From a top-down perspective, right? Where do we stand? We have done basically what are the mechanisms of change in agile. We would say, hey, the larger requirements broken into smaller ones, right? That's fine. And hence the increasing the turnaround time of the change of the changes hitting the production system, because now they are just more doable. They are quick fix cycles, right, which can run on couple of on couple of weeks kind of sprints. So there's no need to kind of have a prolonged life cycle management of the changes. That is one of the fundamental differences how agile differs from the non-agile part. That's part one. Second, if you look at the slide, it look at this, right? When you are on the validation of sprint 0, it talks about product backlog. Now you remember from our elicitation techniques, backlog management is one of the elicitation techniques, right? So in agile, certain techniques become significant. Why? Because of the very nature of the life cycle development. Agile believes in smaller discussions, okay, and so that the ratification of the changes becomes more quickly, validation, ratification, etc. Once they are done, then the fitment into the scope part is done. Whatever fits, fine. Whatever doesn't fit remains as backlog, and that the backlog perspective is something which is then kept as a ready requirements for the next sprint. So whatever you can fit in first sprint is fine. All the backlog then automatically becomes the front runners for your requirements discussions, which don't have to be discussed because you have already discussed that in the beginning itself. So they become ready reckoners for your sprint cycle number 2. Where is the BA? BA is again at every conjunction or hook point between user and the development of requirements. Now, another very key role here, guys, and I think I understand why Rishabh is saying that the role of a BA is slightly less significant. And honestly, I may not like to deny that, because, guys, you have a very strong role from the client called product owner, right? Who's a product owner? Product owner is somebody who's the lead from the client side, right? He fully understands the requirement part from his business perspective. Okay, so he's very well qualified to hold that side of the table. Now, how does it help the BA? It helps the BA because now he doesn't have to go too deep into the as-is. Thanks to one, a fairly mature user community, and two, a very experienced product owner who's able to package the whole requirements, who's able to explain each and every user story to the BA, right? And work hand in hand with BA to finalize the requirements. So that way now BA has a very close and qualified buddy to help him, design those requirements very well. So should I say some of the glamour of the BA role has kind of been taken away and has been given to the product owner? I don't know. It's not an industry specific language, but well, as a layman language, I might say that, yeah, I mean, to be honest, some of the gleam factor has definitely shifted down. So then, BA from a service provider size becomes a little more functional role. Now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really bring down the BA's value. It is only that it enhances the effectiveness of the overall change development very well. Because now there are very, very good thinking minds to help evolve that. Your user is much more mature. On top of it, there's their head sitting, which is their product owner. So both of them tend to make the requirements so clear to the business analyst that his ability to finalize the requirement, in conjunction with IT goes much faster. And that's what you're, seeing here from a project preparation perspective and solution validation perspective. That's why you see that the things are moving fast. There are sometimes parallel sprints going on. So there's a sprint 0 and sprint 1 together, and then followed by, even when you are just about finishing the integration testing for sprint 0 and 1, your sprint 3 and 4 probably have already started. So, Rishabh, to come back to your question, the role remains the same. Yes, some form of a heavy lifting responsibility a little bit goes away, but that honestly is a good news, because now as a BA you can turn around much more number of requirements than before. Isn't that great? Of course it is great. And because eventually, guys, it's all about, hey, did we end up creating a different system which made the BA's role a bit different, but did it help to generate higher business value? I will say yes, of course. So in that case, what is your role? What is the intermediate role? What is this entire SDLC role? This is all about being a good facilitation points, so that the business value for the organization is created better and better. Honestly, guys, you do a waterfall, you do agile, you do any book kind of a process. If the time is structured enough, do you really think the client bothers that what is that exact methodology where this is being done? Why does client actually start taking a lot of interest in the entire development cycle? Because they are very, very cautious here, want value from this whole change process. So whether you give them value from your left side or right side, or you turn on the whole hand, how does it matter? Right? It's eventually starting from an origin point and going to a destination point. And in that perspective, agile is just a little less of it, it's runs faster. So eventually, guys, remember, the whole discussion comes down to the point that which way are you delivering better business value to the customer. So when you do agile, you're able to turn on their changes faster, quicker. So those changes as functionalities hit the system faster. Then the user is able to use the functionality, okay, to create transactions in a better way. So that way, the customer relationship index of success or efficiency goes higher, right? So eventually, this whole thing collapses into the fact that you business creation of value, which reflects obviously in terms of revenues and profits. So basically, Rishabh, it's the way you want to express your thoughts on it. But obviously, you're right. The fact that it stems from the fact that how detailed you are acquainted with agile. So, guys, by the way, being agile acquainted doesn't mean that you are you have a very firm recognition of the sprint methodology and the scrum part and etc. Right? Those are basically agile terminologies. How well you understand agile comes from the fact that how good you are able to articulate how it is done, what are the different roles and the governance carried out by BAs and the product owner, and how it translates into a faster value creation. That is the real understanding of agile, right? So this is slide number 1, and I got another slide here which can probably help a little now. Okay, so yeah, this one, right? So let me explore that up. God, where did my agile go? Where's the other slide? Okay, this one. Okay. Okay, now look at this slide, guys, and I think we can just refresh our understanding from 3 things. One, What are the terminologies of agile, which you see under the column term, right? Which are the different phases of agile, which are under this first column: planning, estimation, execution, tracking, etc., right? So, and of course, what is the agile definition for the same? And then to just to create a kind of a brief comparison, we have kept the last column as waterfall concept, right? Now, if you ignore the last column, right, if you look clearly at, let's say, things like Epic, an enterprise-wise initiative which is large enough to require business case analysis, which means it is aligned to various themes. Let me give an example. You remember we talked about a Nokia example, which I discussed with you as an experience, where, I worked with different Nokia teams because they were trying to develop, one of the slimmest cell phones, in those times. So while the slimness of the phone was obviously not just an exterior attribute, it was also related to the fact that how the rest of the designing of the cell phone has to be done, how its functionalities, user menus, screens, and internal workings will be impacted because you are designing something very different. So that was like an epic for Nokia. It was an enterprise-wide initiative which encompassed multiple teams, and all with the common objective of creating a very differentiating factor in the market for themselves. Yeah, that was the epic part. And when you say it was aligned to themes, so let's say one of the themes was slimmest cell phone for mankind. The second one was, obviously related one was lightest cell phone, and so on. So those were what? It was just differentiating factors which they wanted to bring into the product, so that it can catch the right attention of the buyers. So there was an epic which is aligned to themes, right? And then there were features. Features, of course, we understand. Functional features. How would the screen look like? What will the thinness of the cell phone? Yeah. How will it end up changing some of the user buttons, for example? Okay. How will it end up changing the edges of the phone? How slim means also to determine exactly what is the right compatible length and width of the phone as well, because eventually it has to accommodate a minimum amount of user buttons which you will need anyway to drive the phone. So that is the functional feature, right? And then of course comes the user stories and tasks and story points and etc, etc, etc. Now look at this, guys, and tell me, how will it really matter from a BA's role perspective? Just because you have a different terminology, I don't think that should help. I don't think that should matter. So see, we wanted to execute the change perspectives or the development of these requirements just in a different way. And in order to do that, we had to pick and choose, and create, I would say, these kind of mechanism driven by these different terminologies. Yeah, and that is something which helps to execute the whole thing in a different way. Now, Rishabh, after this explanation, and this is for rest of the team as well, do you have still any concerns for your role, in agile life cycles? If there is anything, please let me know, guys. Okay, I think there is something. Okay, there was a question from Rishabh. So Rishabh, you asked me, does the BA get into the functional spec of the system and regularly communicates with business if there are any issues? So see, number one, over a period of time, when you become, familiar with functional specs writing, you can definitely get into it, right? So yes, if you are kind of qualified enough, you can write the functional spec as well beyond VRD. And regular communication with business of the issues, yes, of course. So don't forget that you are the single point of contact for the client. And primarily in Agile, who is the client? It's the product owner. So for product owner, you are the single point of contact. Okay, so obviously your regular communication with them is a must. Similarly, for you, the product owner is the regular point of contact from the business side. So obviously you two have to be holding the boat very rock steady so that any issues, concerns, etc. are addressed. For example, you develop certain changes, it goes into production, into the release from sprint one perspective, right? But what happens is post go live, those functionalities are not behaving the way it should behave. So then obviously it is again comes back for analysis, right? And that is when you try to address the issue that the intended business objective of those changes has not been accomplished. So it doesn't change anything. You remain as the troubleshooter with whom product owner can discuss, etc., etc., etc. Okay, sorry. So you are saying that development team can also do that. Yes, they can. And that is exactly, Rishabh, when I bought your point, what you were trying to insist is that some weight of the business analyst, tends to kind of go away. Because see guys, it's a way we want to look at this picture. Because of very close working, between user community, product owner, business analyst, and IT teams, right? So what happens is that IT teams also get very familiar with the users. So post go live, as I said, that there is a functionality which is not behaving well. Now, if it is a significant impact, it will come back to the business analyst and the user, product owner, sorry, to discuss and reassess the need or the design of the functionality so that it can be developed better. If it is more of an operational thing, then you're right, Rishabh, it doesn't really come back to business analyst because he's got his sprint 2 to attend to, he's got his sprint 3 to attend to, right? So his, from a requirement perspective, his life is thoroughly busy. But yes, if the functionality breakdown into the system is more than operational, then it must come back to the business analyst for the needful analysis. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next query, when Rishabh says, we write the user stories on a high level in the product backlog with the product owner. So first of all, no, you don't write user stories, but yes, you help the user to shape up the user stories, and that ways, yes, you do that in the product backlog cycle with the product owner, especially yes, with the product owner. So users gives user stories, but you and product owner jointly shape it up into a requirement. Okay. Then you're saying, then when the IT team has questions, do we take decisions on the behalf of the PO to get the work done within the sprint? Okay, so when the IT team has questions, do we take decisions on behalf of product owner? No, you do not take decisions on behalf of product owner, and you should not also, Rishabh. Because remember, product owner is a very responsible position. It has been created by clients because when they realize that if they have to work in agile, they have to dedicate some qualified part of their team, along with the BA and the IT team for a dedicated work on, these, life cycles of a requirement. They also, since the user community which gets actively involved in agile is, it's not just 2-3 users, it's normally a bigger set of users, and hence to have someone on top of that which should safeguard the interests of the business very well, they chose the position of product owner. So product owner is someone who's able to take very qualified decisions. This means the decision which he is taking, you should not take on his behalf, definitely. Yeah. So when the IT team has questions, you have to immediately, since you are, don't forget, you're working in a very tightly knit ecosystem. You remember we discussed, right, that agile is essentially carried out on an operational level right within a single big room. So in that room, there are users, there is product owner, there's BA, there's IT team, etc. So when IT team has questions, the product owner and the users right in front of them to answer it. Of course, you can facilitate, which you should, but you don't, of course, take decisions which are done, on the behalf, of course, sorry, on the behalf of the product owners. Definitely not. All right, so that's how it works. Okay. All right, another query is market analysis, gap analysis, creation of BRD, all these take a back seat in Agile. How do we keep all the above in okay, good, that's a good question. So, Rishabh, a very simple answer to this question is that market analysis definitely is not significant in Agile because remember, you have a mature set of users. You don't need a market analysis because they already know what kind of user stories they want to get developed as requirements. Why do you need market analysis, by the way? You need it because you need to understand the as is perspective very well. Because you are practically alone in a non-agile system. That is why you need prerequisites to shape up your understandings of the client and their processes in order to develop the 2B system better. But in Agile, you don't need that because you already have users. So users give you the market analysis, they sit with you and do the gap analysis. And anyways, creation of BRD is not too important because what's important in Agile is, guys, that you arrived at a consensus, fine, put it down on a damn piece of paper, shape it out, immediately ship it out to the IT team so that they can start developing the functionality. So tactically, the gap analysis is still done. But because the users are already able to identify the requirements, hence the gap analysis is not done in a very detailed way. In a way, guys, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is the users which come into Agile from the client side are very, experienced. They are qualified. They have earlier participated in the requirements build-up and processes. So they are frankly enough what you need. That is why, Rishabh, you are right in a way that, hey, if today you are doing a project, a large project, which is on a waterfall perspective, right, then obviously you are practically the king around there. Because BA has to, but of course, with being a king brings a lot of responsibilities as well, and of course, expectations from you. So it is frankly not a choice, guys. I would suggest that if you get initial experiences in Agile, I think that'll be very good because typically waterfall projects are large. And in that, the responsibilities of BA is also very large. And now forget that in waterfall, he's practically, working pretty much on his own. So there's a lot to digest. There's a lot to cover, in practically in all aspects of as is, fit gap, and 2B. But more or less, if you ask me, I think most of you will get opportunities more in Agile because that's where the risk is less for the organization, right? So even if you go wrong somewhere, typically that error is recognized, rectified, and corrected immediately because you have very mature set of users and product owners around you. And on top of it, you're working in ITs with very tight conjunction. So there's hardly a room to, have an error. But in waterfall, obviously, as we know that if in case there is some error creeping up in the requirement perspective, it goes all along the way into the development cycle as well. Hence, your exposure and acclimatization is the business analysis development life cycle is practically more on the Agile thing. Okay. All right. The next query is Agile has less documentation and user stories don't give detailed picture of the functionality. How does the BA communicate the details like validation and business rules, etc. through documents or verbal communication? Okay, so first of all, guys, in Agile, there is very less of a documentation part, right? Second thing, Rishabh, which I want to now clearly say here is that, guys, in Agile life cycle, the users, again and again that I'm saying it's a qualified set. What I also want to say is that they fully understand the implications of giving the right set of knowledge and discussions to you, which can help you to frame requirements. So, for example, you mentioned business rules. So users are much more aware of the business rules, number one, in the Agile mode. Second, they're also aware that how this business rule is configured into the system as a requirement. And now, why are they sitting with you? Because they have certain user stories, but which also ensures that the currently written business rules have to be amended. So user stories don't give you a lot of details, obviously, but remember, the creator of the user stories, which is the user itself, is the big knowledge bank sitting in front of you. Not only that, he can run you and walk through you on the process side, which is the as is part, he also helps very, very intensely working along with you to create the, the understand the gaps which he has already articulated through his user story. So you have a knowledge bank which knows as this. You have a user story which is quietly, clearly giving a strong hint at the gap part, and then you have a, you have a familiar user, who's of course familiar means familiar with the business process system, who's now ready to sit with you for the to be part. Essentially, Rishabh, to give you a crisp answer, in agile, the more focus of BA is on the to be part. Okay, and that is where that it generally, that way you just feel more confident. You obviously will feel more confident and comfortable, guys, because in agile you are, your needs are well looked after. And typically from a business analyst point of view, what are your needs? Your needs is the, to get the right set of precise information which can help you to shape the requirements. Now obviously here there's, the information itself exists in the head of the people, and these users are, they are from procurement side, they are from sales side, they are from online business side, they are from infrastructure side, they are from system side. So they are, prevalent all over the place. And that's why the client picks and chooses a very specific set of people who have deep rooted knowledge in the company's processes and systems, and then they give them to you as your users, and they remain, in the same roles and positions for years and years. So let's say if I work with one of the world's best music equipment company, right, with the Indian name, I worked with them in Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah, Massachusetts. So there, they always have been working in SAP Agile for last 7 years. So when I worked with their users for almost 3 years, I realized that the same set of users and product owners have been remaining in the same position for years now. They're so well thoroughly acquainted with the agile process. They're so well acquainted with the Scrum methodology, right? That I just had a great time with them. So that is the kind of ecosystem, guys, which agile brings in front of you. Okay, good, guys. Any other query on the agile part? Any other query? I don't know about me whether I am, kind of uh, exhausted after giving these detailings, but I am sure that Mr. Rishabh Kothari is fully satisfied, and that's why he said, "Okay, good for now, man. I mean, good for now." Yeah. So if there is any other query, I'll come back to you via email. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Good. All right, guys. Next 20 minutes we have open for any kind of questions. I'm sure you must have questions, right, about your particular apprehensions for stepping into the agile mode, sorry, agile, the BA footprint, right? I think we discussed that enough in the beginning of the meetings, but still, guys, I think that's of paramount importance because this is like a last session where we have a verbal discussion. After that, we'll shift over to an email part. So if you have any query, any apprehension like that, please feel free to ask me right away so that you end the course on a very confident note. Yeah. So the window is open, guys, and I'm waiting. All right, now seriously, I don't believe that you don't have any questions. Either the the discussions were of such damn good quality that you don't have any questions at all, or you are not asking me anything. I think this one. So guys, look at these questions, right? Question 19 and 20. So what user stories can do for agile, use cases do for non-agile. Actually, use cases are honestly fully, prevalent in agile and a non-agile both. User stories are still, associated more with agile, but honestly, many of the non-agile projects, I do definitely come across multiple user stories. So anyway, it is not a boundary, but all I want to say is that remember, your instrument of discussion remains either a good user story or a good use case. Yeah. And many times what happens is that, let's say, I'll tell you an example, right? I go to a petrochemical client who don't have a certain new process. Now we want to execute that process for them. Right? But they want to see uh, some kind of a use case. So what I'm trying to say is the power of a use case in order to convince the client that even if this new process has not been used in the industry by certain players to a large extent, but we at least have a use case in which we have developed the function, the business and the IT part of this particular business process, which will help you to get a bigger and a better value. So use case could be, it could be just a simple use case on a paper. So a simple use case could be just an explanation of an event, an actor, and their interconnected situation on a piece of paper, or it could be more than that in terms of a well-developed prototype, or more than that, it could be frankly a well-developed case study in which we have used that solution on some other clients. Okay, so that is how the graduating kind of a model you can bring or a mechanism you can bring, starting from use case, moving up into a prototype, moving up into a full-blown case study. Yeah, so these instruments are very useful in terms of convincing a client. Okay, guys, if you may like to look at this question number 7. Yeah. Do you have any specific illustration technique? So guys, remember, you have studied almost 50 techniques. If I ask you upfront on a very casual note, hey, do you have a specific techniques as, something which you view as a very effective, very strong, very favorite kind of a technique? What is that you guys want to answer me? So guys, I'm asking you, how would you like to answer this, how would you like to answer this question? If someone asks you this, so guys, give me a dope on this. Each one of you, do you have any very specific kind of a technique which you think is more heavier or more weightage, it has a more weightage than others in terms of elicitation or requirements? Brainstorming and fishbone requirement workshops. Yeah, Sudeep, I like your answer. Interview and workshops, that's pretty cool. The most I use currently is 5 whys. Okay, so that's interesting to know, Devasmita. That's really interesting to know. Because frankly, it's the simplest, but it's very, very, very effective. That's fantastic. Okay, I'm glad. Requirement workshops, needless to say, guys, is very, very effective again because you have a comprehensive accumulation of point of view, thoughts, consensus, and concerns, everything from stakeholders. So, frankly, in that 3 hour window, you address almost everything. Anything, guys, typically from a more new gen perspective, please? Okay, so I see Himangi is giving a different answer. So Himangi says, frankly, each technique has its own significance. What I feel is that a SWOT analysis will help to identify the problem. Okay, so guys, let me try to articulate what Himangi is saying. And I think it's a very, very democratic answer. Each technique has its own significance. Agreed. What we need to say, guys, for this question is, what is the most applicable technique in that particular business scenario is something what we want to use. And how do you find applicability of a business, of a elicitation technique? It again, guys, depends on what is the, it typically depends on obviously if it is a direct approach or indirect approach. If it is indirect approach, then obviously you have to, by default, you have to choose something like a questionnaire, right? Or you have to do data mining, right? Or you have to do backlog management. Anything which doesn't need a direct intervention. But I'll definitely like to say, guys, that I agree that we all might tend to say that a direct techniques of workshops, etc. are effective, but trust me, the problem with direct techniques is also that direct techniques are colored. They get colored by human bias, okay, and human weaknesses. So, for example, if you remember, I'm often on going to Bangkok these weeks, right? Why do I do that? Because a large part of there is the client with whom I'm doing, this business analysis side of the story. So, frankly, the business users are definitely not very cooperative at all. And also, they likely see that a large program which will come in as a solution may jeopardize their current work or their positions or the roles. So maybe they don't want to help me in that way. So even if I'm having direct techniques with them, frankly, guys, I can see that those have bias inbuilt into it. I know I'm not getting the right requisite input at all. What do I do then? Then I will do what every sensible business analyst does. They go back to the single source of truth, okay, which doesn't give any bias, which is not colored, and which is also called the system. So what I'm doing is, these days I'm doing detailed analytical data mining on the system. How? I have certain tools which bring out the most detailed aspect of process and analytical knowledge associated from the system itself. So my tool runs on the system, throws out all the information, packages it in form of business process or customizations or technical objects or the related data points. When the reports come to me, I'm able to assess and analyze and clearly see what is the pain point right in the system itself. Now, when you say business user as a pain point, what is that? Probably one of the existing business processes is not most optimum. Without consulting the user, I'm also able to actually get the pain point report directly out of the system itself. Do you think the system is blind? No. Do you think the system can have a bias? No. So in that case, guys, some of the temporary new generation indirect ways of elicitation techniques are fast gaining more recognition, sometimes in comparison to the direct techniques. So that's where I think, Himangi, I like the answer when you say, well, each technique is significantly right. We need to check what is the exact status in the situation we are. Is the user mature enough to give us a very agnostic answers, or the system is better stakeholder to give us the right information? Okay, so that way, guys, I think we did a lot of stuff, from Babok 3, where the latest techniques have been, done, and I think, that will be probably a better idea. So, Rishabh, that's what exactly I'm saying. I mean, from a direct approach, the workshops do a fabulous job. Right now in January, I'm back in Bangkok because I have prolonged weeks of workshops with the customer in order to detail out that whatever 2B that we are generating for them, does it really fit their bill? So based on the as-is, we have been able to do a fit gap by now. User was not very active, but I was able to do more that from a system perspective. So I've identified the gaps. Now, since I've identified the gaps, based on that, now I'm generating a 2B all by myself. Yeah. Once I'm able to generate the 2B, I want to go back to the users and then in a more direct way, I want to discuss with them the 2B solution model, the 2B delivery team, the 2B operating model, okay, all that I have based on the requirements which I've generated now. So I'm working by myself along with the system of the customer to generate this perspective which I want to take back to them for validation. So, I mean, that way, maybe you can call it a strategy that, from a building up, maybe I rely more on the data mining part, and then from a front-end validation, I rely more on workshops. So it's a twin combination of multiple techniques, guys, which helps us, to arrive at the right approach. Yeah. I hope this is okay with all. Yeah. But I like what Devasmita has to say, that many times, when you have gathered, the so-called information and you think it's still not complete, then you have to take to the 5 why techniques. Because then with every relevant idea, you have to ask why, how it is going to happen, why this is going to happen this way or not this way, right? So that way it can lead to a clear answer, because that response has to come from somewhere. Once you have a why question, whether the response comes from the stakeholders, whether it comes from users, whether it comes from system or processes or documentation, but you need to address that why. So while you gather responses to address that why, and then what you get in your hands, when you look at it, that information, and then you again on top of that ask a why. It is, guys, just taking the right approach in order to dive deeper and deeper in order to arrive at the single form of truth. So many times, why work? So honestly, in complex scenarios, will why work? Yes, of course, why not? So why is more of a generic story, which works everywhere. Yeah, so right now, maybe, I think somebody amongst you is in the middle of an analysis exercise, because, where he or she is using the 5 whys, also using workshops, and I'm sure also using some form of data mining. So maybe the qualitative part, which is more from a mining perspective, Yeah, that's something where probably maybe it's not really very popular right now, because honestly till about a year back we didn't have a lot of data mining tools, but now that we have them, we honestly depend a lot on them. And honestly guys, the precision value of the output which comes from certain tools is fantastic. It reads the data, it catches the keyword, and then it brings out reports which tells us that what is the larger pain point of the business, by just highlighting that how many times a particular keyword in the business terminology, repeated itself. So by calculating the repetitive number of times a particular pain area came up, from the system database, you can clearly catch it up. So the magnitude or the thickness of that pain point tells you that in order of hierarchy, which pain point is the highest and which is probably the lowest. And honestly, the tools and the systems don't lie, because they are purely based on a single form of thing called data. That is why, guys, the data analytics is gaining such strong grounds, because more and more now clientele is very clear that they want to rely on data to bring out the patterns. Looking at the patterns, they want to take a decision, and the decisions have to be in form of what kind of budgets they want to expend on different areas, markets, customer categories, segmentations, and different development ways. Now, if you see, all those decisions are eventually originating from data. That is why the client is very keen that the business should register the input and output from a business aspects clearly into the system. So one part of the data input in the system is via all these customers transactions, which anyway make it very clear that what is the reality of business today. But second thing is, there is very important data which the business teams input into the system. That helps to decide that what are those core and non-core parts which also needs to be addressed from a business point of view. Since that input is coming into the system via data points, all the data is, first of all the raw data is pulled out. Then second, the raw data is structured. Third, the analytics tools are run on top of that structured data. And the fourth thing is that the outcomes are received. Yeah. So having a very congenial viewpoint on all of these techniques, etc., is a very good input, which you can provide to yourself only. It just enhances your it enhances your understanding of, the BA role, and of course, what are the mechanisms and tools which you actually use to implement the same. Okay. All right, guys, are we good? Yeah, I think we have come quite a long way. And honestly, I will tell you one thing. This course is designated for certain hours, but we have far exceeded them, only from the fact that we had some 21 very active people sitting in this group which had lots and lots of queries. So at the pace at which we had to cover the course, it got delayed, because query addressing it itself takes a lot of time. But I'm glad we did that. Maybe we took 10 hours extra or something, but I think the group is probably looking definitely more confident in terms of the kind of understanding that you guys have salvaged out of these discussions and these sessions. Okay, guys. So coming back to situation now is that I will look forward to your kind of attempt on the BRD that you're going to take. Please take your time. Maybe it's another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't mind at all. But I want that all the components of the BRD you are able to address based on the discussions that you had with stakeholders, or with me, or the way we walked through the solution, or by a simple assumptions that you want to take in order to carry forward your solution. So please do that. Freeze your BRD and then send it over. Then leave it to me to check that, to incorporate all the missing portions into it. So I'll actually input all the content in the various table of content which I think are missing or they are not good enough. I'll put content from my side. I will send it back to you. Look through my content and see that if it helps, because I put a more detailed process flow chart, or maybe I put a more detailed requirements, or maybe I put a more detailed SWOT analysis, or maybe I put a more detailed cost benefit analysis. Okay, so go through it and use that content to finalize your BRD. then again send it back. In 2-3 iteration, we'll finalize that, right? And second thing is, guys, so BRD is one key thing which I'm looking forward to you, right? And the CV is the next. So do that in the next couple of weeks, okay? And then I think we will be in ready stage of thinking, because in terms of applying, because you know what, we know, you know, that which way our instrument of communication, which is the CV, should go forward. Is it in the ready mode to be, you know, shortlisted by different perspectives? And then the larger part, guys, CV shortlisting will not be a challenge, but what will be a challenge is how well you are prepared, you know, to answer the questions in the interview. So please prep that up. I will also upload, I think this question, interview questionnaire is also uploaded in LMS, but I'll make sure that this and the CV sample format KZI is able to send again, okay? So use these things to prepare yourself, and in any case, my email ID is always open to address your queries, okay? So guys, is this all okay? So shall we now close this course on a formal note? And I want to thank you for all your participations and very, very meaningful cooperation which you were able to give me. Trust me, I wouldn't have come across probably if you liked me as a trainer, as a mentor, as a guide. I couldn't have done without you. It's always a two-way relationship, guys. Yeah. So I would like to thank you on a formal note. Yeah, and I wish you all the very, very best for your forthcoming careers. Yes, Swapnil, you're most welcome anytime, any day. Thank you very much, guys. Super duper being with you. Apologies for not muting up. You know, that was my mistake, but kindly pardon me for that. I guess this is a small operational situation. But anyways, we stay together. All right, sure. Let's be in absolute touch, Subir. Most looking forward. Guys, your success will mean a lot to me. Please understand. I have taken maybe a couple of weeks, you know, to train this batch of 21 guys. You know, some of the initial successes which I can create will be wonderful news to me. Some of the way I can help you to guide you in the next coming weeks and months, which can be an effective instrument of change for your career, I'll be more than happy. So please give me that, you know, give me that happiness, give me that joy. Yeah. And let's make it a success then. Okay. Super duper. Heyman, thank you very much. All right, guys. Over and out for now. All the very best. Goodbye and good luck.